thank you for joining us. Layla, I see you're out there somewhere in the beautiful sunshine.
Yeah, enjoying the nature.
Well, thank you for also hopping on to be the guest host for tonight. So I saw a lot of your videos recently, Joe, and a lot of the stuff you speak on, which is so relevant and current as of right now, is crucial, especially for people who are living in California, which California has been downhill on a downward spiral for quite some time. So I believe, in my opinion, from my perspective, you're one of the voices that maybe a lot of people know about, maybe a lot of people don't, but definitely should hear from. So, feel free to talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind tonight, because I'm sure people really want to pick your brain and see how you feel about some of the stuff that's going on.
That's cool.
We got.
I just don't want people to ask questions they don't want the real answer to, because I'll tell you the real answer, and a lot of time it really pisses people off,
Oh, it's gonna get real tonight.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think there's a lack of that too. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide people with facts. Everyone's going to have an opinion or a feeling about something, but facts don't care about your opinion. So let's start getting in. Then I want to start with just letting people know kind of a backstory about you, from maybe where you came from to where you are right now, how you got into being in the political spectrum and everything as well.
All right. I'm from South Central Los Angeles. My name is Joe Collins. Father of four. I moved to Texas. I finished high school actually in Texas, in a suburb of Dallas called Ferris. And I graduated high school in 2003 and joined the Navy in 2004. The reason why we moved to Texas was because my house was shot up in a drive-by. My uncles, they started a lot of the major gangs out here in Los Angeles. And then, as I got older, started getting involved in Wells as well. So our house was shot up in a drive-by, and my mom moved us out. I joined the Navy in 2004. I became a Republican in 2004. And the reason why was because, that's when you're able to vote. Just turned 18, and, you're talking to your mentors. They, we ask, well, who are we supposed to vote for? Or what party are we supposed to be? And they tell you, well, you vote for the person that you like, who values align with yours. And, the party is the same way. You do your research, do your history on the party. So for me, becoming a Republican, it was because the first Black man to ever be involved in politics were a Republican. They actually co-start the Republican Party to support Black people in the efforts of freedom in America for Black people or people of color, or whatever people like to call themselves these days. Started off working on jet engines. I worked on fighter jets. I worked on regular airplanes, helicopters. I did a boots on the ground tour in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I ran a #1 recruiting station at an NRD Dallas, Naval Recruiting District Dallas, #2 in the nation. Spent the last 2 years in San Diego at HSM 49, and I actually got out the military to get involved in politics. Started running for Congress. Last election cycle, I ran against Maxine Waters. It wasn't the goal. The reason why was because when I got out, I wasn't getting my benefits. I had got a general under honorable conditions because I wanted to pursue politics. And instead of staying in the military, I served 13 and a half years. And so when I was going to Maxine Waters' office to get help, I'm thinking, well, she's Black. She's the congressional representative for this area. She's going to help me. And I didn't get any help. And I was going to her office a lot, and I'm living on the streets or living from family member to family member house, because you can't get literally anything without your VA rating. So finally filed the lawsuit against the military. My VA benefits came through. I let the lawsuit drop. Then I got contacted by somebody from the Trump administration, pulled me to Washington, D.C. I'm flying back and forth from D.C. to Los Angeles, learning things about politics. And then they told me, well, choose somebody who you want to run against and choose somebody where you're from. And I'm like, great, I'm going to run against Maxine Waters. And, that's how the ball got rolling. And we ran one of the most aggressive campaigns against Maxine Waters. I think we raised $10.6 million. I spent, $9.6 million running against Maxine Waters, radio advertising, TV, events, flying across the country, helping other candidates with their races, teaching them how to raise money, teaching other counties across the United States, how to, do phone banking, knock doors, engage with the inner cities. Did a lot of talks across the United States about that, as well. And even in my own district, we registered over 50,000 new Republicans in the Los Angeles area just by, keeping it real. And, had a lot of controversial issues with people who have never stepped foot in an inner city, but have a lot to say about how you should campaign in an inner city. But all in all, became, extremely prominent in politics, not how you see like conservative talking faces and they say a lot of things, but actually, being involved to where I'm flying to different states and I'm teaching people how to start campaigns, how to raise money for their organizations. And this is going to be our second time running here in California in 36th Congressional District.
One question I have for you, and then I'll pass it over to you later, is in terms of policies for the person that you were going up against in Maxine Waters. As we've seen, she's been in politics for so long, and we have never seen her district or much of Los Angeles in general change much for the better. What are some of the policies or some of the positions or stances that she's taken that you would point out that have not been beneficial for the county of Los Angeles?
Her being in office, period. That's one policy that has never been beneficial. She was great in the 90s, but I think ever since like 99, 2000, she has done absolutely like the bare minimum. And everything that she has done has went to like organizations or special interests that collect money to keep her in office. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, and I'll say this with any politician, any age politician. I mean, 65, 70, 80, you got to go. I mean, like right now, we have a bunch of politicians that are living in the past. You know what I'm saying? Look at the policies from today. They're in the past. They're not what's needed in order to move our country forward. I would take a young Democrat over an old Republican any day. And the reason why is because these people, they don't have the mindset, they don't have the vision or the capacity to see into the future or even get us to where we need to go as a country.
So we did mention that so many people are getting involved with politics. I've been getting involved, meeting local candidates like that, and all, just a ton of people are brand new to this. So do you have any insight that you can give? Because obviously people don't understand the complexity of running a campaign. They don't understand all the different underlying factors, all of the things that you have to take into consideration. What is the one thing, or what are some of the few things that you sort of maybe underestimated in terms of how difficult it would be to run a campaign?
We're in California, so I'll say the one thing that I underestimated was the power of the ballot. Like, we did not collect ballots last election cycle, and I think that's something that we should have got ahead of. We knew that the Democrats were going to do it, and a lot of times we think that we're just going to play the game and everything's going to fare out the way that we want to, but it doesn't happen. I mean, if we're playing the game, we got to manipulate the game to work in our favor. And that's what a lot of people, complain about, but we don't do it. So, this election cycle, we're absolutely going to do everything that it takes in order to win this seat.
Definitely. So getting out there, because I know that that's one of the things they do. They're constantly doing grassroots, community building, all the different things. I don't know what all the different things that AOC talks about. That she's getting involved with. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not straightforward. Too many people have this idealistic view about it.
That's true. And things that work in other states or other cities or other counties may not work where you are. And sometimes that's a problem. I know a lot of times, especially last election cycle, people wanted me to do this, say that, act like this, be like that. But it doesn't work. It's disingenuous. And I'd be fake to try to act like, everybody else when I'm me and I'm from my community and I know my community.
Yeah.
I've noticed with, growing up, how the Democrat Party has been keeping you under this, basically keeping you inside of a box to where it almost becomes impossible to get out of. They keep you in welfare states, and you have the food stamps, and you're always dependent on the government to some degree. So from your perspective, have you noticed anything like that being a Republican and coming up within that scene?
Uh, I don't really know, and the reason why is because um, when I ran for office, I was attacked by both sides. I was attacked by Republicans and Democrats, so I wasn't shit to anybody. I was just that guy who's running against Maxine Waters. But I think that in my community, you have people who know they're poor. They talk about being poor. They hate being poor, but when you give them better options, they don't want to take it because I guess it's glamorized to talk about living that life, or whatever. And then on the other side, I don't think I've made it to the point where I will be fully accepted into that party because I don't act like every other Black Republican or Black conservative. So I depend on myself. Like even with my fundraising, I fundraise on my own. My messaging, we get our messaging based on the collaborative efforts that we get from the community. The community is heavily involved in my campaign. So I don't know. I just the terrible thing is trying to convince people who are poor to vote for your best interest instead of voting for like the D or the R.
I agree 100%. But I think that when you are bombarded with either one or the other, that's when people want to pick sides instead of actually taking that step back and then looking at what is best for you. Because we do have a lot of that divisiveness within both of the parties. And so I feel like as if, going forward with, we have primaries, we have local elections. What do you have to say to people who look more at the bigger picture instead of the smaller scale, which leads to the bigger picture, which are the local elections? Because it seems as if that gets overlooked a lot, and we don't pay attention to who becomes our mayors or who becomes, the governor or city council, school boards, things like this. What do you have to say on for your perspective to the people who overlook those?
Um, Local elections are extremely important. I try to support everybody who is running for office. If your area covers my district, then that's the person who I want to support. That way we can support each other and we'll have more of a force going into office. You'll have more of a platform going into office. People that I didn't know would support me and vice versa. But local elections are important. I mean, I see people complain about the education. You see people complain about the houses, having to build, houses on back of houses to meet the housing quota for the county. Those things come from the local level. You know what I'm saying? So if you really want change in your communities, that's where you vote for your city council members, your water board members, especially water right now. Everybody should be focused on water board because we're about to have like a serious drought in California because of mismanagement of water. But your school board officials, your city council members, the mayors, even your state assembly and state senate, those elections are extremely important, and people need to be watching out for that, especially now. You see all the bills that are getting passed through that allows people to teach your kids LGBTQ agenda in elementary school. I have no idea. The puberty blockers, sex changes, drag queen reading hours, those are pushed by your state legislature. So people get pissed off about these type of issues, but you literally have to vote on that. Having too much of anything is always bad. Too much Democrats bad. Too much Republicans bad. You got to have like that middle ground.
I totally, and too many of us overlook having that middle ground. And I think you can probably speak to this, Joe, as well, is that a lot of people, especially voters, don't understand the concept of really what's involved in compromise. You know, picking the right issues at the right time and compromise to find middle ground. Because you're not going to have every percent of things, but you can usually find something that either Democrat or Republican that they can agree upon, and then you can start from there and then work your way forward. Don't you agree?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I would say like that when it comes to agreement, I feel like this is stuff that is just innately inside of you, like that. we know what is right and wrong. But when wrong seems to get pushed so much and confusion seems to get pushed so much, we have imbalance. And that is what I'm seeing, not just only in the world, but when it comes to certain politicians or in politics in general. It's like there's certain things that we should not be confused on. And one of those things right now that just seems to be getting pushed so frequently is the gun control aspect of what guns or the Second Amendment, I should say, allows. And we have someone like Joe Biden who's saying, well, it's not. I'm like, what do you mean that it's not, substantiable and we can change things? I'm like, that's never been the case. So I know that you've spoken about that actually quite a bit. And so I kind of want your input, especially for people who are watching as well, like what your take is on all of this gun control pushing in the media.
I'm not for gun control at all. And the reason why is because people who and I've said this before, people have their intention on committing a crime using whatever, they're gonna get that and they're gonna do what they gotta do. You know what I'm saying? So when you create more gun control laws, it's like you're punishing people who already follow the laws for the people who don't follow the laws. One of the things that makes me so upset is that we have 1,800 federal law enforcement agencies in the United States, but nobody ever checks those law enforcement agencies to find out why'd you drop the ball on these issues. And you look at every single mass shooting, every single gun issue in America, each individual has had some type of interaction with some law enforcement, whether it be state or federal law enforcement, they completely drop the ball. I mean, we could talk about gun violence in inner cities all the way to mass shootings. It doesn't matter if it's an AR-15 or a 45 Glock. Anybody who has the intentions on committing some type of act of violence has had some interaction with a law enforcement agency. And so instead of passing new laws, I think we need to start checking the government. And I think we need to start checking the government on more than just gun laws. We got to start checking the government on everything. We could talk about wasteful spending. Why are we being overtaxed when the government is, giving $56 billion to another country? They're giving $1 billion to, these different organizations across the United States. You know what I'm saying? The government, the wasteful spending, these policies that they're passing, the amount of organizations they have within the government is completely failing the United States. But everybody want to start blaming the people instead of blaming the United States government. Why do we drop the ball? How come we don't have, even if you want to say it's mental health, why we don't have mental health programs? How come this person wasn't being monitored? How come we didn't bring this person in for treatment? How did we not, monitor this person's Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media to catch what he was doing in a timely manner? Because it happens.
Agreed. And also, just to add on to what you said, one thing I noticed is there's been a lot of talk about, well, why isn't this happening in other countries? And, blah, 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 basically on that topic. And, I rolled my eyes because I'm like, look, because people aren't, let's just say, gun violence, even though I believe it's just violence. I don't believe in gun violence. If somebody's intention is to harm you or to kill you, then they don't need a gun to do it. It's not the machine, it's the man behind the machine. And we see from history that anytime our government or a government has tried to take away weapons or has successfully taken away weapons, it doesn't end well. And we're seeing history repeat at this point. We just saw Justin Trudeau in Canada talking about banning the buying and selling of handguns. Right now, we have our government talking about assault rifles, which they can't define, and they also can't define what a woman is. So now, if we go from assault rifles, and let's say they were to successfully take away that, what's stopping them from taking away handguns the same way that Trudeau is successfully doing in Canada? So it's not like, tyranny happens overnight. It's gradual. So from that perspective as well, I'm just curious because I want to hear it out of your mouth what you think. From what they're doing with the whole gun aspect, do you see this ending well in any possible way if they were to successfully remove weapons from law-abiding citizens?
I don't see it ending well for Americans. You know what I'm saying? I don't. And Joe Biden even said yesterday, we got to ban handguns. He was talking about the 9mm pistol, the difference between the bullet of a 22 and a bullet from a 9mm pistol. This guy, he doesn't even know what he's talking about when he talks about guns. Neither does, Kamala Harris, anybody else in administration, or any other person who talks about banning guns. But it's not going to end well. I think people will put too much trust in the government to hate you. You know what I'm saying? They've never passed any policies that's going to improve your quality of life. They take your tax dollars, send it over. You're never the beneficiary of any positive program that has a positive outcome from the United States government. But yeah, people are continuously putting their trust in this government. I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah,
even to think about.
That they're doing that, because in one breath they're talking about how the government is systematically racist, and in the next breath it's do everything they say and don't question it. So
Exactly.
it's insane.
The government is racist here to take all my weapons from me.
I know.
And I've never seen
trust them.
how many car accidents all last year, the year before that. We see people just running through crowds of people with cars. You see people stabbing each other with knives, but nobody ever says, hey, we got to ban cars, we got to ban knives. So I mean, like, the ridiculousness of banning guns, we don't ban anything else, is just, it's crazy. Cigarettes kill millions of people every single year. Nobody says, let's ban cigarettes, let's ban alcohol, let's ban prescription drugs. But I mean, like, the stuff people are willing to give up is just ridiculous.
Well, conspiracy theorists will say that it's it's a plan. And at this point, it's looking like conspiracy theorists are right on this one, because I've never seen such a big push to remove the. I mean, let's just say, okay, a mass shooting happens. That's not going to make me go, guns are bad. That's going to make me go, I think I need more guns, because there are crazy people out here who are mentally unstable, or who are set to do things like this, who will do things like this if their intention is bad. So to remove your ability to defend yourself, there's no logical sense in it. And the same as if there's no logical sense in saying that a man is a woman and a woman is a man.
Yeah, I never understood that one either.
That this, just to note also, this also is a continuation of their attack on women. Because if we don't have handguns, women are completely defenseless. Like, what are you going to do? Use a knife? Like, there's literally nothing that you can use that's comparable to a gun if you're in a violent situation. So it's definitely continued their attack on women and making women especially more vulnerable.
More defenseless, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you make the man defenseless, you have the man defenseless and the woman defenseless. And right now, I see, as America armed, we are the biggest military there is, the citizens, not even the army, not even the military, not the Marines, just the citizens. And if you disarm the citizens, then that is an easy takeover. And I feel like at every aspect, we are being takeover. And so when we were talking about local elections and things like this, and that being overlooked, I feel like that is something we have to put on the forefront. It starts at home first.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But they've had a war on men since the 90s. I mean, you look at every single policy that's been passed in the 90s, it has to do with systematically removing that man from the home so they can indoctrinate or groom your kids to be whatever it is that they want. Now, look what we have. We have a bunch of kids who think that they're girls, and a bunch of girls who think that they're boys, and I think that's completely sad. But when the nuclear family was together back in the 60s, even the 40s, even during slave time, you didn't have that. You had strong families, strong houses, and kids are growing up strong. They were growing up successful. But that stuff is falling by the wayside.
Agreed, big time. And I feel like if you were to have, I mean, once you remove the man, and then you have the woman working, and then your child is at school, this is the perfect place to groom children. Your parents aren't around, the state will then raise your child. And this is pretty much where we're at this point, where we see a lot of people have removed their kids from the schools, and they're not going for it. They just tried to label the parents, concerned parents, domestic terrorists. So we are seeing just like this internal, I feel like, domestic terrorism within our own government with its citizens. There's a lot of infighting. period. I mean, all over really the world. I've seen it in Australia. I've seen it in Canada. I know a lot of people that are around the world, and we've seen a lot of this infighting within the government and its citizens. So if we can't get a balance or an agreement on what should be done, what is the right thing to do, not even what should be done, but what is the right thing to do. So I bring that up to say there may be a lot of people who may not know necessarily what you stand for. And so why would you tell people to vote for you or consider voting for you? Give us I would say, a reason why people should look into what it is that you stand for and what they can get back from that.
Vote for me because it's time to clean, time to clean this shit up, period. I mean, we could talk about homelessness. Homelessness is a huge problem. I have a plan for that. We could talk about the increased cost of living. I got a plan for that. We could talk about jobs. I have a plan for that. Transparency. I'm gonna always be open and transparent. Everything I do, related to the campaign is literally on my social media pages. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. I mean, we've had Democrats running our state for a very long time, and the result is $9-10 gas, $9 bags of eggs, and chicken is out of control. People can't even eat. You got to decide, am I going to do crack and run to work, or do I got to overdraft my bank account to put gas in my car? And these are the type of issues that people are faced with. Normally, and it's crazy, these are normally like a young people issue. Like when you're in your early 20s, overdrafting your bank account is a decision that you have to make, and it's fine because you're young. When you're 30, 40, 50 years old and you have to make these decisions, I mean, something is wrong here. But we can't keep voting for the same thing, expecting better results. They've proven to you literally that they're not going to do better for you. Every single politician that votes across party lines, they don't read these 1,000-page bills that get put into their office at 9 o'clock at night when they got to get voted on at 11 o'clock. They don't read that stuff. They don't give a damn about it. So we have to start voting for people who actually cares. And then when I get in the office, if you feel like I don't care, then vote for somebody else by all means.
So basically, the voters really need to start empowered. They really need to take some time and see who has their values, really do vetting. And you feel with confidence, with vetting, they'll definitely want to choose you because they're ultimately going to be dissatisfied. I mean, they are dissatisfied with what this supermajority has done. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to also want to pass this over to you as well, Layla, but I'll break this in by saying one of the other things that, regular, everyday people who may not have big platforms are coming across is censorship. And we see the media pretty much cannot be trusted. They censor everybody so that people really don't have a voice to speak. And you have, like Layla, for an example, you break down a lot of propaganda and stuff within media or certain topics and things. And so I'll kind of let you spearhead this one. But I'm also interested in your take, Joe, on what the media has been doing to hide stories or to cover for certain people and politicians and things of the sort.
I think the media is full of shit. I mean, I don't trust any of the media organizations. And I learned that in the military when Trump was running for office. And we watch CNN all the time because that's all they put on the TVs and in the galleys or cafeterias or even in the workspaces. And they always show like a one-sided story. And I was like, man, I really don't like this guy. And I think he's racist and all of that stuff. And they was like, no, you got to watch the other news media channels. And then you got to go get the story. And then you got to get the clip. And you got to watch all the stuff for yourself. I spent like 4 or 5 hours trying to, watch him do one speech, listen to their side, the middle side, and then listen to what he said. I'm like, damn, the media really does be lying. So I really don't trust the media. If I hear a story on the media, I go check every single, news article, make sure it's correct. If I know people, I'll call them, ask them, what happened. If I have anybody who have an alternate opinion, I like to talk to them, see what their alternate opinion is, and then, do my best to try to find clips so I can piece together what happened myself. But I don't trust any media. I think that they like the journalists who be on the media, they need to get fired. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you a topic and then give you their opinion on a topic, and it'd be no facts involved in that stuff.
Yeah, the opinion pieces really ran hard on CNN. And, they had that little disclosure that this is an opinion. But, obviously, that. And it's really sad to see so many people lack the ability to understand how all of these agendas work together. Like they don't see how the agenda of disarming American citizen could in any way be tied to maybe some Agenda 21 or something like that. You know, they don't see that. And even people that follow me and people I talk to, they don't see those overarching agendas. And that's really the problem. So when you tell someone, oh, this is going to lead to this, if we make it so that kids can do, you know, sex changes at the age of 12 without parental consent, it's going to lead to higher suicide rates. They won't be able to initially see that. And that's the bigger problem. And I think that the media works really well in taking advantage of that, because in order to see those bigger picture items, you need to have, you know, the ability to see pattern recognition. And what we're taught in school is ultimately to memorize things and then repeat it, not to look at all of the different information and see how they correlate together. And so the media really takes advantage of that. They make those opinion pieces. They make this news article, you know, some of it could be fake, some of it could be real. And then that slowly builds their opinion. And people, again, you know, they just don't question it. They're not taught to.
Well, I'll give you an example of something being real and something not being real. Like, what was real is that, like, Hunter Biden exists, but what they didn't want you to believe was real was the fact that he had a laptop with a bunch of disturbing stuff on it. Like, that's pretty much how it works. It's like, yeah, he's real, but the whole story is not real, and then it turned out to actually be real. And so when you have stuff like this happening, and you have a majority of the population saying, yeah, we don't believe anything that you guys put out anymore, and then you become censored when you talk about it, that to me is fishy. That to me means that you have something to hide. And the media at this point is just covering for criminals. Whether they're criminals themselves or they're covering for criminals doesn't matter. But there's criminality that is happening. And if people can't go to what they're so used to on the regular, then who do you go to, right? You know, you have citizens pretty much becoming the news.
Yeah.
You know, people are putting out the information themselves, and then they want to label everything misinformation or disinformation. There is an attack on the truth. And, you know, for you, Joe, have you felt that the truth has been hard to put out, especially while you've been running and running your campaign?
I'm shadow banned right now. Hell, you know, I'm always shadow. Like every 2 weeks, I'm shadow banned. I got kicked off LinkedIn for talking about that transgender guy who beat those ladies in that swim meet. Like literally, LinkedIn. Like out of all platforms, LinkedIn. I would prefer to be shadow banned on LinkedIn and kicked off. I think that's a punk move, but whatever. They shadow ban me on all the other social media platforms on a regular basis. But it's cool because I still got emails, text messages, you know, whatever advertising that we make sure that you know, our supporters see on a regular basis.
That's kind of heartbreaking that LinkedIn would do that to you. LinkedIn was like, we can't have that on our platform. Sorry.
I had to break
That's
it down to
insanity.
what gender dysphoria is. I'm like, no, gender dysphoria is like a real disease. I was a recruiter in the military. We didn't let people who wanted to be trans into the military because the suicide rate goes up. Like this is not fake. So when I say that, it's wrong for a guy who's a biological male, still had his Peter Weeder, competing against females in a female sport. You know, it's wrong. It's wrong. He's not a tough guy. You know, he's a jerk. He's an asshole for doing that to those girls. And it's happening in high schools. It's happening in colleges. It's about to start happening in elementary schools. Joe Biden already wants the boys and the girls to share bathrooms. Like this, it's bad. It's bad. It even happened in prison. And now you see, you know, female inmates getting pregnant by trans men who want to be women. I don't even know what to call them, but you know, and I'm not anti-gay. I just that trans community, I think that your lifestyle is your business. I mean, in America has like they're too involved in people's business, and people want their business on Front Street. They want everybody to accept it, and you shouldn't have to. You know, if you don't like trans, you shouldn't have to accept trans. If you want to be trans, go do that shit on your personal time. Nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? The only person who care is you, and that's because you got low self-esteem, so you want to put it on full display and make a mockery of everybody who don't care about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, I'll let you go later. Go ahead.
oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, the patient. Because if they are suffering from some type of mental illness, they would want to seek validation from the larger community. And it's just so unfortunate. And again, this is part of the larger agenda of attacking women and destroying female for whatever reason. I mean, I guess they feel they conquered male enough to the point where now they need to make sure women don't have fundamental rights and, you know, safety. And I think that we can also bring up the point of when there was a student who, you know, AR'd a girl in an elementary, I think it was a middle school, and the father was arrested when he brought that up to the school board. So this is definitely a much larger agenda than, you know, we even can contemplate, because if it's that serious, they're going to let people be attacked, and they're going to take federal funding from schools because they don't allow these little boys, these crazy little boys. No. You guys know little boys, they shouldn't be running through the girls' bathroom like that.
They
It's gonna be
should.
Well, exactly, but that's like what us normal people understand. Us normal people understand that there's a male bathroom and there's a female bathroom. And it's not because we're divisive. It's because duh.
yeah.
Like duh.
Common.
So when they put all this stuff to confuse you and we have gender neutral bathrooms and all that, it's too much. It's just like, what are you guys doing? And then you can only you can't help but ask or wonder what the agenda is, because things don't just happen for no reason. You know, it's like somebody who's in the movie industry is not going to just make a movie. You want to know why there's so many Marvel movies? There's so many Marvel movies and shows because they make a shit ton of money. So they're going to keep on pushing this stuff out. And even now they have got so woke with it, because that is also an agenda that they want to push. It's not by accident. So nothing's done by accident. They do it on purpose, but it's just about, you know, whether you will accept it as normal or not. And we are not accepting this as normal because we understand that it's not. And I want to add on to kind of like what Joe was talking about was, you know, like for an example, I have gay friends, but I don't ever address them as my gay friends. I address them as my friend. And what they have done now is they have put an identity on everything, which is why we call identity politics identity politics. It's, you know, Kamala Harris is the first black vice president. It's like, who cares? She's done absolutely nothing.
But
That
that was
means
until she
nothing.
got into office. When she got in, she was running as the first black woman, and then she got in office. Now she's the first Indian woman. You know,
Yeah.
she got to fill two
Correct.
shoes.
Correct. And Asian. They've called her Asian as well. So she's everything on the spectrum at this point. And I just, you know, when this all started, I was like, that really means nothing, though. I don't care if the person's black, brown, red, who, I don't care what color they're supposed to be, but what are they doing for you and or the country, you know, and or humanity? And that's kind of where we are right now. It's either you're going to be doing things for not just for the country, but just humanity in general, or you're going to do the opposite. And kind of, you may understand where I'm going with this, but then we start talking about abortion. I mean, we are literally culling humanity by doing that. Like the way that it's being pushed is just so outlandish that the satanic temple is behind abortion. Like they love it. They're like, let's you know, let's keep this going. So I don't, you know, I'm just gonna say that a lot of the stuff that we are seeing is going against nature and going against God and going against, you know, America has just never been that type of place, and we see it going into a place where it's unidentifiable.
Yeah.
So, I guess in your opinion, how do we gain that identity back?
I think that when it comes to identities, I mean, you just have to clarify who you are. We got to stop legislating people's identities or people's morals. I mean, that's what's got to stop right now. I thought it was pretty interesting though when they said the Democrats, like, we're going to have the first, you know, liberal Supreme Court justice that's a woman. Then they asked her, what's a woman? They, define a woman. She's like, I can't define what a woman is. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's changing the narrative a lot. But everybody always want to be something. I think that we just got to mind our damn businesses. I think that's what it boils down to. Like, your private life is your private life. When I grew up, my grandfather would say, mind your own business, leave everybody else's business alone, and God's going to bless you. You know what I'm saying? But now everybody want to mind your business, and they want their business in the streets. And we got to get back to minding our own businesses. We can't, stop legislating people's feelings, stop legislating people's morality, stop legislating people's identity, stop trying to place a label on everything, and just be who you are and be happy knowing that who you are. You know what I blame, though? I'm going to be 100% honest. I blame participation trophies. I'm being dead serious. Like, soon as everybody started getting participation trophies, now everybody feels entitled to get something or be something that they're not. And when I was in sports, if you sucked, and you knew you sucked because everybody told you sucked. There was no trophies, there was no awards. It was a try again next year. We got to get back to that.
Yes, definitely. I definitely agree, because I think Joe is really good, because we need to have people who reinforce the idea that there's concepts like freedom of association. You don't have to hang out with somebody. You don't have to accept that they need to be running around with G-strings on in the middle of the street, celebrate their identity. Like, you don't have to accept that. But that doesn't mean you come to violence. That doesn't mean, whatever it is, but you don't have to accept it. You don't have to bake them a phallic symbol shaped cake for their wedding anniversary. Like, we don't have to do that. And that's something that's so lost on the American people. It's like we have all these different identities, all these different preferences, the land of the free, and, soon to be revitalized home of the brave. But we don't have that basic concept. Like, just because I don't agree with you 100% doesn't mean I want you to be taken to the desert and abandoned, or, it's just the way it is. Candidates like Joe, speaking to that, it's like, do what you need to do, but don't do it in my face. Like,
Basically.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's what I mean is, like, we see the push of everything. Like, religion has been around for so long, but, we don't push religion on it. The only people I see push religion are like Mormons, because they knock on people's doors. But, like, we don't push like religion at all. Like, and then even if you do, we just respectfully say, like, nah, I'm not interested. But what we're seeing today is like, no, it's gonna be everywhere. Like this, and you need to accept it. It's like, no, we're not gonna accept that. Like, sorry, we don't do this in America. America's not that place. America literally is the land of the free, meaning I'm free to do, to think how I want, and to eat what I want, to drink what I want, to, like, this is the place to do it. I've been in other countries, and every time I was in another country, somebody asked, well, how's America? Like, they want to know what America's like, because to them, it's amazing. Whether they can come here or not, they want to know what it's like. They want to know what life is like in America. And at that time, it was so much better than it is now because of what we have to deal with, unfortunately. But the outside looks in on America as that place to be. And that, I think that we have to carry that as the people who are here. I see a lot of people who, they're not proud to be American. They have been completely brainwashed by the media and the TV to disown the country that has given them the ability to not even be proud to be American.
Everything. Give them everything.
That's true. They don't have a passport. They've never been to another country. They've never experienced life, never served the military. Like, literally have been nowhere and done absolutely nothing, but they hate this country a lot. It's like, I've been to Iraq, and a woman is a woman in Iraq, and you look like this when you're in Iraq, if you're a woman. Right?
No.
They cover your whole face.
Yeah.
They cover your whole face, literally. Like, you cannot be seen. You got to walk behind everybody. You can't eat with everybody else. Like, you don't have no rights. Sodomy is legal there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And we take that for granted though because we watch TV. I tell everybody the cure to everything is to turn the TV off. Why is that? Because the media wants to paint that everything is racist. Everything is racist and everybody's racist and there's KKK members everywhere. And black people can't walk the street without being targeted. That's what LeBron James said. I have never personally never experienced racism. Never. In my 31 years of life, I've never experienced racism.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that other people haven't. Sure, maybe they have, because we know that they are racist, that they exist. But to the level that the media is painting it, it does not exist. You can walk outside and say good morning to the white people that are jogging down the street without them saying the N-word. Like, it's not like that. That's not people's reality. And so the TV creates and depicts a reality for you to live. So when you are watching the CNNs and the MSNBCs and they're saying everything is racist, now you're looking at the world as if it's out to get you.
Yeah, you know what
And
I
I
thought about?
here, just turn it off. Go ahead, Joe.
I just thought about, like the owners of CNN and MSNBC, they don't watch their shows, and neither does the board of directors. And the reason why is because you got a bunch of people on those channels calling white people racist when those channels are owned by white people. If I was one of those persons who owned that channel, or I was white, and I heard them talking about white folks are racist, yada yada yada, I'd probably fire them because I feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? So even them probably don't even watch their own channels. But I still never understood the concept. White people are racist, but you work at an organization that's owned by white folks. I just don't get
Oh yeah.
it.
Even beyond the racism, when they start talking about capitalism, I've seen I've seen it. Like, I'm around a couple of people who they think that way because they're liberals, and they're over here talking about capitalism and all that. Meanwhile, I'm seeing them literally go into work, come back, they party
Every
at
day.
work and do all this stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, isn't that backwards? You're supposed to not even want to work.
Exactly.
You got a socialist mentality. You're not even supposed to want to do all that. So we just take for granted the freedom that we have. And to a degree, I do say that maybe some of it needs to be stripped away, not from everybody, but from some of these people so that they can realize that it's not what they want, that's not what they want, because you never know what you want till you have it or you don't. And a lot of people are still stuck in this, I guess you can call it a matrix, where they actually believe Joe Biden. Like, anything that this man says, they're still on board with whatever, script that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And
They got to be
we
true. He's been in office
we're
the longest.
battling
He's
with
been
these
in
people
office longer
daily.
than everybody. He's been in office 50 years. Everything he says about politics got to be true. He's the most experienced person in office right now. It got to be true.
Oh,
Got to be true.
well, one thing as well about Joe Biden is he's a career liar. Like, he's lied throughout his entire career as a quote unquote politician. And Donald Trump exposed a lot of that because he exposed that you didn't have to be your status quo politician in order to be in a position such as he was. And so, well, also, like, when we look, like how you gave us your backstory, is one question I wanted to ask to you was the importance of, or do you think it is important that some of the regular everyday people get involved in politics, because we have someone like Gavin Newsom, who is Nancy Pelosi's nephew. He gets funded by the Gettys and all of these big name people who just shove him money because he's there for an agenda. We understand that. But if more of us got involved with our local elections, and even thinking about going bigger than that and beyond, do you see an importance of that in that regard?
I mean, like, you just got to define getting involved. Is it just voting or actually getting actively involved in the whole political process? Because if you ask me, do I think it's important that everybody get involved in the political process, then I'm going to say no, just the people who have a passion for it. Because if you're just getting involved because you don't like something, you don't have a passion to make the change, you're just doing it because you don't like the current situation. When it comes to voting, get involved by voting, absolutely. I just, on another note, would like people to stop being so sympathetic to the person who's literally making your life miserable. Gavin Newsom literally makes people's life miserable. Here in California, he gave $387 million to illegal immigrants in healthcare. He gave them stimulus checks. They get housing, and Americans are literally struggling. And he is responsible for the destruction of the California economy. But he brags about a $97 billion surplus, which the majority of that money came from the federal government after Biden got in office. Like, this guy is ruining our lives, but people are sympathetic towards him. Oh, he's doing the best that he can because he gets up on there and gives them the whole, shebang on TV. But we got to stop being sympathetic. It's just like we're in a toxic relationship right now. You know what I'm saying? And we need to be completely done with that. Like, it's time to move on. It's time to go love somebody else. And I think that's what people need to start doing.
It's so true. I love that you brought that up because I relate it to relationships also. Like, it's just a relationship. They keep saying they're going to do better, but they never do better. They keep
Just can't
cheating.
stop cheating on us.
Oh, stop! Why do I keep finding Pizza Hut in their phone? That is not.
That ain't good. If it's a Democrat, Pizza Hut is normally some children.
No, why is Pizza Hut calling at 2:01 in the morning?
Black African Americans, they've been voting majority Democrat for so long, and we've been manipulated to do it. We have been manipulated into voting for basically one way. And I, for one, understand that, the Republican Party, we have rhinos, we have people in the Republican Party who do not have your best interests at all. That party has been corrupted to a degree. But when you're looking at the principles of the parties, they don't even compare. I mean, the Democrats have always been for taking away weapons. When it came to slavery, they didn't want slaves to own guns because then you can defend yourself. They do not want you to be able to go out and have your own business and do all this because then you no longer need to be governed. So just the principles of the parties are just two completely, different things. And, if it comes to whether it be the black community, white community, whatever, I feel like the principles align with Republican naturally. And for the Democrat, that's, when you talk about liberals and you talk about progressives, that is a whole changing of something that is, whether it be mentally or it be a physical thing. And so I think when it comes down to the principles of it, that the Republican Party has always been the way to go. But we have seen the manipulation of not just the people, but of certain policies and things that come into play that paint Republicans and what they stand for as negative. So now we see all the Republicans are racist, and even if you're black, you're a white supremacist now. Like, we've seen the craziest shit when it comes to this. So do you have any thoughts as well on how that has came to be and how we've seen that happen, especially since Trump has became president?
Not necessarily. I know back in the days it was because the Democrat Party, people who voted Democrat started to get poor because they made slavery illegal unless people actually wanted to keep working the lands under contract. But I think even now, I can understand why a lot of people would say the Republican Party is racist. I mean, they got to treat us better. They got to treat people of color who come to the Republican Party better. It's just like people always talking about, oh, well, you got to get off the Democrat plantation and be a free thinker. But it's like, if I get off this plantation, I don't want to come here and be on this plantation. I don't want to think like you think, or I don't want to be a free thinker in the context of your opinion. I want to be a free thinker in the context of my own opinion. That was the purpose of me leaving this party from the jump. But, a lot of times, black people are loyal, and we know this. But when we come to this party, we want to get actively involved because we see that there's a lot of work to do when it comes to bringing more people over, even talking to people about, being free, not having a government being a heavy factor into your life, being able to make your own business, make your own money, and do what you want to within the context of the Constitution and the U.S. federal codes. And so that's all I can say about that.
Layla, you two have met before, right?
Yeah, I ran into him at an event at the Pineapple Hill Saloon. That was pretty fun. We had also Brendan Starka from Walkaway campaign there. Sorry, I just can't pronounce it now. So that was good. It was a good night. A lot of people in, really high positions coming down and hanging out, trying to stay warm. It's incredibly cold in the Bay. I think a lot of people across the country, they don't know that in San Francisco it's very cold even in August. So
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, but you're by the water anyway. So,
Mhm.
you know, what's funny too is I took a trip to Sacramento at the beginning of the year, and about 2 weeks ago I took a trip up north to Big Sur, and let me tell you guys how big California really is. California's huge. Okay, so like when you had mentioned a drought, Joe, I was kind of thinking about that, and I was like, I went up like all the way, almost all the way up California. I'm like, we have nothing but farmland. We have a bunch of wineries.
Right.
We have a bunch of land in general that's probably not being used. We have so much in California that it's almost impossible to not be economically booming
Mhm.
as a state. And so the only way that you could see that we wouldn't be is if it was deliberate, because we have so much in California that could be utilized. And when you are keeping everything from really being utilized in whichever way, it could be farmland or whatever, then you are making it to where it can no longer be sustainable. So the amount of, how can I put it? I guess you can say land, but imagine if, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who have not went up north at all. There's a lot of people who probably only stay in Southern California. All they know is like Los Angeles, San Diego, and all this. But when you actually get out and you see, and when I took that first trip to Sacramento, I saw a bunch of Gavin Newsom signs that were not on his side. Like they were like, leave our reservoirs alone, leave the water alone, all this, and F Gavin Newsom and all this stuff. So I started thinking, I'm like, when it came to the recall and all this, I was like, I'm pretty sure California went red.
Yeah.
Like
No.
That's
from
Um,
what
that's
I
why I
see.
said that's why I said people gotta stop being sympathetic because you still have people who voted for this dude.
yeah, they love him. We have a question here in the chat. Someone asked, Joe, if you could address how you would tackle the homelessness situation.
Yes, absolutely. I would tackle the homeless situation. I'll tell you the way
How?
I'll do it though. I'm joking. The way I would do it though is like, so we got to reopen the mental health facilities. According to Cal Matters, is there's about on any given night 150 to 165,000 people that are sleeping on the streets. 27% of those people have some type of mental health or drug addiction problems. The rest of them, the cost of living is too high. So it's like a two-part problem that needs to be fixed. For one, we got to reopen mental health facilities and make it so these people cannot check themselves out prior to the completion of their treatment. A lot of people say that's an issue, but constitutionally, it's not an issue because the Constitution states that anybody who is not in their right minds are able to make a decision for themselves. Someone has to be an authority to make the decision for them. So constitutionally, we can keep them in there until it's time for them until their treatment is complete, they can get back into the workforce. Now, another issue is that we're overtaxed and there's too much restrictions on development. So we have to loosen up some of the taxes and loosen up some of the restrictions that we have on development so we can lower that cost of living. There's no reason why rent and everything should be going up right now, especially when people jobs can't pay the money that's needed in order to live. That's a legislative problem. We're taxed for literally everything, and all we do is wasteful spend. You know, to everywhere except for the people who are paying the taxes in California.
Definitely.
Now, unless there was a plan to buy up the property that people obviously can obtain, then that's something I would say completely different, because you have you have it to where a lot of people, especially in California, I think, You know, they're living, not only just living like, let's say, paycheck to paycheck, but they're living in government housing and things of the sort that keep them at a certain state. So, I mean, of course, you have a roof over your heads to that degree, but when it comes to homeless, like the homeless, Skid Row, like that type of homeless, we have seen nothing be
Yeah.
done for the longest. That has always been Skid Row for
Yeah,
as
that's
long
true.
as the three of us have been alive, probably combined.
Well, it's
And
bigger
so
now. Skid Row is huge. I mean, they got like multiple blocks. I think from 12th all the way to 4th Street. It's a mess.
that's a lot of streets.
Yeah, it's a mess.
That's a lot of streets. And so one has to ask why, right? And
They
I don't
create an
think enough
enabling
enough
environment.
of us ask why.
They create an
You said what,
enabling
Joe?
environment. They create an enabling environment for those homeless people. They give them a check like $800 a month. They give them tents, they give them drugs, and then there's a shelter that opens up that feed these people. So they come out their tents, they go get their food, they get their drugs, and then they go right back to Skid Row. Nobody says nothing. It's not regulated. People come in, they clean up, the streets and everything, clean up around the homeless people, and they just leave them there. Like Los Angeles County literally creates a homeless enabling environment. They make it comfortable to be homeless. They don't create any type of infrastructure to get these people off the drugs, to get these people back a part of the workforce, get them back, paying taxes so they can be involved in our process.
Or even just helping these people. It's not a safe and healthy environment.
No.
And
And not for them and not for us.
yeah, it's morally wrong, like for them and for us, exactly.
They got children down there too, by the way.
Exactly. So
Right. Well, and I'll tell you right now, too, when it comes to Democrats talking about how much they care about children, when this last shooting in Texas happened, you had them. We were just talking about abortion not that long ago, and they were in there, snuff them out the womb. And then now they're over here talking about, oh, we got to protect the children. Look, you don't even want children born.
period.
So how do we get to this whole protecting children? And like, you're not going to fool me with this. So that whole thing right there. Okay. And then and you're right, Joe. I mean, we have homeless families. Like this is happening now. Like, it's not like they were homeless 2 years ago. It's like they're now becoming homeless because they just cannot thrive in California. They can't thrive under this climate right now. And so, yeah, you do have kids who are homeless, but we don't see that same care that they claim to give to those people at all, or those families and those children. So it's like, look, do you care about all children or just some? Do you care about all black people or just only if they're Democrat? Like where do we go from here?
Just the ones that fit their agenda at that
They
moment.
post birth of be like, oh, they had 1,000 days, like some insane. Because what did they want? Like 27-day post birth abortions are okay. So just be, it's 2,000, and then they'll shut up.
I was 8 years old. My mom tried to abort me. You believe that?
Yeah.
What?
She's like, that's funny, but it's sad that, like I said, it's confusion. It's what do you actually care about and what do you stand for? They don't mix. There's no logic in it. You have a question too here, by the way. Purple Knights ask, is running against Ted a better race than running against Maxine Waters? And if so, why?
What's up, Mitch? That's my guy, Mitch. Here's the thing. It's not, is it a better race or not? Last election cycle, like we did our thing, we registered over 50,000 new Republicans in a 43rd district. And the majority of the cities that we won and the people that we registered ended up in a 36th district, in the new 36th district after the redistricting. So, I mean, my people are here, my major donors are here, my biggest support base is here. So I'm here. We took the district from a D59 to a D plus 24. For anybody who don't know, that means for every 59 Democrats, you will run into one Republican. And then we took it to, for every 24 Democrats you're running into one Republican. After redistricting, They took the district from a 24 to a 72 right now. So, I mean, obviously they want to keep Maxine Waters in, and obviously they cut me out of my own district to run in, which will give me a great opportunity to get into Congress, and that's the goal. So, yeah, absolutely.
Based on the Black church's one-sided myopic support of the Democrats, are they helping or hurting the Black community?
Um, I think that comment is subjective, right? Because I think it's assuming that Black churches have a one-sided myopic support of the Democrats without taking into consideration that the majority of Black communities don't have a Republican presence there or Republican engagement in that community. So I can't say, yes or no without lying. I want to be an affirmative when I answer a question. What I can say is that the Republicans do a better job of getting inside the inner cities and entertaining people or actually listening to people without developing talking points from their assumptions. I think we have to start engaging people on a level that they can understand. Don't engage them by trying to force your talking points or your opinions down somebody's throat. Engage them by listening and find out what their issues are so you can be that leader that can help them and maybe they'll vote for you.
So true. That's the number one thing that I see with the Republican Party. I've just gone into politics myself. Just have these lofty ideals of how life is. Why didn't you just do this? Why didn't you just buy all organic? Like, what's the problem? It's like, people have different situations. They have real economic situations. They have real issues. And it's not, oh, why didn't your dad just lease you a car? It's like, you have to be realistic. And we need more realistic, humanistic Republicans speaking for people.
Yep.
I agree. You have another one by Mitch.
Yeah.
He asks, which committees will you sit on if selected?
I think about it on a regular basis. I think the committees that I would sit on would probably be the House Intelligence, anything that have to do with the military, International Foreign Relations Committee, and I think maybe the Banking Committee. I think those would be like the top ones I would have my eyes set on. And those are specific for specific reasons.
Would you want to be more involved because California especially has such a large agriculture base? Would you want to get more involved with that as well?
No. See, I got a degree in accounting, right? So I want to do anything, and I've been in the military. I want to do anything that I can use my skills towards. I don't know much about agriculture, so I'll let people who are experts in agriculture handle that one. Now, when it comes to finance and agriculture, absolutely we can talk about some things, but no.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought up finance because that's also something I think that's overlooked. We have a lot of people talking about reparations and all this other stuff, don't understand anything of how that would even come to be, but it sounds good, sounds great, sounds like a red velvet cake, but it's really just a display.
I've been trying to explain reparations to people for a very long time. And I think that one thing that a lot of Black people are forgetting when it comes to reparations is that you don't have no nationality. You really don't have a nationality. Like, your nationality has been systematically stolen from you from the United States through everything from the census to how they give you to label yourself, your identity, right? Black is not a nationality. There is no country called Black. African American is a misnomer. You can't be two countries or two continents at the same time. Like, you have to come from a specific place. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that we don't have. We don't have a history. The majority of people think our history started with slavery, and that's just not the case. A lot of people do the 23andMe or African ancestry, and they say, oh, well, I came from this place. And it's like, that is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my entire life, because in order for that stuff to be accurate, these organizations literally have to have DNA from every single person in that country or a distant relative of yours from that country in order for that stuff to be accurate. So I think that before reparations, we got to find out who we are. Some of us did come through slavery. Some of us are here prior to slavery. Some of us migrated here from other countries. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. And I think that the laws from the Department of Interior is specific. Like, when you look at the habits of a lot of people of color, right? We're consumers, we're spenders. You give us money, we're gonna spend it. It'll be done. The next day, you'll have more people dying because they've never had any real association with wealth. They have never had the ability to save money. A lot of people don't know what trust estates are. A lot of people think you have to pay for an LLC. So I think that, you know, say we do get a nationality, because that's something I'm going to fight for when I get to Congress, and we do get a reparations package together. I think that the reparations package has to be more than just giving people money. I think we have to get them a trust set up in a state, get them a trust account set up, as well as a financial vehicle, so they can be able to take the money that they're getting, whatever resources that they're given, and put it in that financial vehicle, so they can start to build that generational wealth that everybody feels so left out from.
Wow, that's
Right.
the talk that you probably.
Yep.
We got Mitch in here. Mitch wanted
What's
to hop
up,
on
man?
real quick.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Joe?
What's up, man?
What's up, Propaganda? How you doing?
Is she frozen?
No,
She may not be speaking.
Oh, you look like you were frozen for a minute.
no, that's my frozen fish face. No.
She's not. She's not speaking to me. It's all good. Joe, why do you do this every time? Every time, Joe, you was doing good, bro. And once you get to the reparations, you drop the ball.
Because I'm not here to seek approval. I'm here to tell the truth.
Okay, so can we unpack that a little bit?
Or you can do it again if you want to.
I know, because you and I chopped it up. It's a new audience. I never met the young man here that's hosting the live. So all this is going to be new to them, kind of old school for you and I. But, you know, we can't kid ourselves. Reparations is old to African Americans. There's been precedent been made. Japanese, the natives, white slave owners, Jews have already been paid reparations. We already been doing it. Democrats been playing around with it. Evanston, Illinois, Asheville, North Carolina. Some stuff happened in Oakland. I applaud Governor Newsom handing back $75 million worth of black land to black people in California.
It wasn't to black people. It was to that family who owned that land. It had nothing to do with them being black. They took it via eminent domain, but they
Were
gave
they
it back to
black,
that
Joe?
family. That family
So,
just happened to be black. But if the government owed any person land, that land could come back to that person, regardless of what that person's color or what they identify as.
so whose land been notoriously stolen and taken away from them, Joe?
The Native Americans.
Okay, they've been made whole. Who else, Joe?
The Native Americans have not been made whole.
They've been given reparations.
They got a few pieces of
Who else
land.
has?
That's not
So you
being
got
made whole.
so you agree with at least the natives been paid at least somewhat reparations. You're saying they haven't been made whole, but yes, they have been paid reparations.
Yeah,
But
so
you
here's
agree
the
with that?
problem. Here's the problem, and I'm not saying I'm for or against reparations. I honestly don't care. The reason why I bring up nationality is because the Department of Interior, they have money, and the money is set aside. If you can identify with your correct nationality to be able to get that money, African descendants of slavery, you got money. People who were here prior to the slave trade, you have money. People who came here from other countries forcefully, you have money. So the money is there. It's just about claiming your nationality and finding out who you are or where you came from so you can get that money. That's the biggest problem. But I mean, reparations, they've been talking about this since
So,
that
so what
1960s.
what if you're a native and your land wasn't stolen? And you could prove your nationality? Are you still giving reparations?
Yes, Native Americans are given
No, you're not.
reparations.
No,
Bro,
you're
yes,
not.
they are.
You have to actually prove that your land was stolen. Same thing with the Jews. Same thing with the Japanese. The
So
internment camps that we had in this country were all people who actually experienced the internment camps here in this country. It wasn't just because you proved that you're Japanese.
okay, so according to the Department of Interior, if you're a Native American, you get a check and you have the ability to live on whatever reparations that your tribe is on.
Yeah, I think we can maybe. I don't necessarily have a question. Wanted to pick up where Joe left off, and shout out to all y'all. By the way, I appreciate the conversation. I'm a conservative, and I'm also a reparationist, and I, as both, do not trust the Democratic Party with the issue or any policy on reparations. The reason being is because they have a tendency to lean toward social programs.
Yeah.
And as a capitalist, I begin with the understanding that in a slave economy, labor is capital. right?
That's true.
And if we can figure out a way to measure the value of that capital, we can determine how much the descendants of those slaves would be owed. That's even before we get to the issues of atrocities against humanity and, you know, all of those other things attributed to Jim Crow and, you know, redlining and all that good stuff. So that's my starting point for that conversation. I think one thing that's well, I see someone saying capitalists began on slavery. That's kind of the point that I'm making. So I think that's Mitch. So Mitch, if you're paying attention, that's kind of the point that I'm making. In a slave economy, again, labor is capital, right? Because we're talking about the four factors of production, one of which is labor in any economy, whether it's capitalist, socialist, or whatever. So, you know, people like Mitch, Democrats, liberals like Mitch, miss that and lean towards social programs. Now, we should insulate any reparations package with other incentives, things like Joe was saying, trust funds, you know, educational programs. We're talking about a comprehensive program that
Exactly.
includes direct payments, but also includes, you know, educational programs, you know, incentives for bank loans and, you know, any number of things, right? But to Joe's other point, and this is going to defeat Mitch, as much as I love listening to Mitch talk sometimes, HR 40 passed through, and HR 40 is the, you know, the proposed legislation on the study of reparations, just the study, right? It made its way through committee last year. Now, I'm no expert on parliamentary procedure, but as far as I know, Nancy Pelosi could have brought that resolution to the House floor at any point in time. So those of us, and there's a lot of Black conservatives in the reparations community, those of us who are in the know that HR 40 is just a stall. If they really wanted to do this, they would have done it a long time ago. Where is it? That's their commitment to Black folk right now. So those are just kind of my thoughts I wanted to bring to the conversation. I appreciate y'all giving me a moment.
Sure.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course. No, we try to give everybody a voice. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what political side you're on, doesn't matter what your beliefs are, none of that. We want to give everybody a voice because we know a lot, especially in these days right now, a lot of that is being censored. So it's good to have the conversation. I'm glad that you're on here, giving us your thoughts, and you're always welcome to come back too in the future if you have anything you want to talk about.
No doubt. All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
Hey, Blanche, what's up?
What's up, y'all?
Bro?
What's up?
How you
What's
doing?
up, Joe? What's up,
bro?
propaganda? What's up?
It's been a
So
while.
Yeah.
I saw Blanche had joined, and I wanted to get you on here real quick because you actually you lived in Cali. I know you weren't in Southern Cal. I believe you were up north, but I mean you're familiar with California. I mean all four of us up here are in California. Well, not you now, but we're familiar with California. And so I'm not sure when you had left Cali, Blanche, but when you were here, you know, I'm sure you saw some things and you were, you know what I mean? You can relate to what we've been talking about on the live tonight. So I wanted you to kind of go in a little bit as well, because I'll tell you right now, Joe, you had said that the election is actually coming up, I believe. What day is it coming up?
It's on Tuesday.
It's on Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. Okay, so real soon. So, you know, I thought that this live would be really informative for people to not only know about Joe, but also California, what Californians are dealing with currently, the state that we're in. So if you can give like a quick, I guess, little ask, I guess, yeah, like your perspective as well on Cali before we close out. And if also you have anything you want to ask Joe, then feel free to.
Well, my thoughts on California are it's probably going to break off into the ocean. I mean, it's
True.
you know, I was there last summer and I don't know, man. Joe, listen, Joe, I applaud you, and I'm standing behind you 100%. I remember I first saw you on your first video when you was walking through Maxine Waters district, and
Yeah.
to me, I felt like I'm like, this is the person that we need. You know, my girl wasn't feeling what you were saying, but that's what I mean anyway. But you know, but anyway, my point is, yeah, California to me, I don't know, man. It's tough. I don't know. I don't want to say it's no hope, but I'm gonna just pray for you, Joe. That's all I can say.
I think it's a lot of people out here trying to figure out how to make a change. I think that the biggest thing is we got to stop thinking that there's a one way to fix everything. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, like every part of California is different. You know, like South Central Los Angeles is definitely different from anywhere, but I think the closest place got to be Oakland. You know what I'm saying? But Sacramento is different from San Francisco. Orange County is different from San Diego County. So just because something works in one area doesn't mean it's going to work in our area as well. You know, we gotta get out that mindset. Just because you can go somewhere and you can preach this don't mean I can preach that same stuff in my own district. Trust me, people have tried and it didn't go over so well, especially when you got a county full of gang members and stuff. It's not.
You know what, Joe? I honestly feel like outside of the major areas, like let's say LA County and the Bay Area, like the metropolitan areas, I think most folks are conservative in California.
Yeah,
they are.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I've noticed. Outside of those major areas, like pretty much people are like they are down south where I'm at now.
The thing about it is this, and I even made a video on it. It's just, you look at the major cities and it's so dense. I mean, the population is dense, and that's where Republicans miss. In Los Angeles County, we have anywhere between, I think, like 12 to 13 million people, counting or not counting illegal immigrants, right? But it's so heavily Democrat because there's no heavy Republican presence there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then you have Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego. These are like the most dense populated areas in California. And that's what makes California blue. Anywhere outside of there, Bakersfield, Santa Barbara, Santa Ana, like those places are kind of like purple or red. You know what I'm saying? So if Republicans don't start attacking these inner cities, or not even inner cities, these heavily dense populated areas, then they're never going to win California no matter what you do. It doesn't matter. You can, if you're running for governor, you can literally campaign in Los Angeles by itself and get 5 million votes and win.
Yep. That's true.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. Because Gavin Newsom, I mean, like when he ran last time, he only got like 9 million votes. In the recall election, he got 5 million votes. This is the off election year. So the voter turnout is going to be extremely low. Like if I was running for governor, I'll fly from Sacramento to Los Angeles and San Diego and hit those 3 spots and just become a popular, like a rock star. I'll run all my advertising right there. I'll get, 5-7 million votes, and that's it. That's all she wrote. But people don't look at it like that. But I'm dumb. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I feel like they're really intimidated. They're like, oh, there's no hope. It's not even a dream.
Well, so I see a comment here. I want to get your question on this, Joe, because you are actually in politics. So do you believe that Democrats and Republicans are the same?
Kinda, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own agenda. I think that's what we can all agree on. What that agenda is, I mean, it's hard to tell. The reason why I say you look at the age of the politicians, right? And these guys, 68, 70, 75, 84, 89, and they've been in office for 40, 30, 20 years. They are the same people who they were in the 60s and 70s. And you can see our policies are coming back from the 60s and the 70s. So these are literally the same people, senior citizens. That's what they are. They should be in a senior citizen's home and not in office. But we got to have more younger people getting up and running for office, but not thinking like these people. Like, get up, run for office, but have your own thoughts, have your own opinions, and be ready to collaborate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Politicians treat everybody like shit. They treat everybody like shit.
Right.
No matter who you are, they treat you like shit.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're not a politician at heart, then I think, that's going to be different, because you have those that are just like, they're looking at the money. They're looking at, like, I mean, you look at someone like Gavin Newsom, man. Gavin Newsom, as Jericho Green would say, banged his best friend's wife, and the dude is so like rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah.
That dude is scum of the earth, like straight up. That's not me speaking because I'm not Republican and I'm not Democrat. I'm neither. I don't subscribe to any party at all, but I pay attention. And I'm gonna tell you right now, where you look where the Democrats are, it's never ending well.
Ever.
And Gavin Newsom has been someone who's been here for quite. Look at who he's connected to and all this, and the dude is just. Whether you're talking about personal or political status, the dude is scum. He really is. He truly is. And when we had the recall, and we were kind of talking a little bit about this briefly, was we had Larry Elder, who didn't they call him like a
white supremacy?
Yes, something ridiculous. And I'm like, so we had our chance to have the first.
I laughed.
Oh, I laughed too.
I saw that. It was and because he's a black guy, and it was like, look at Larry Elder wearing blackface. I started dying. I know Larry. I think he's a cool dude personally, but that was funny.
Yeah, I would like to actually converse with him because, I feel like he's not somebody I don't think a lot of people probably have paid attention to, but he's been making a lot of moves, and I really felt that he was going to win. He was going to be the next governor of California. Think there was some fishy stuff that happened there. Of course, Gavin Newsom seemed really terrified of the guy because it didn't seem like the people were behind Gavin Newsom. And like I said, when I went up north, I didn't see any support for Gavin Newsom. So I said, how's California blue right now? Like I didn't understand it. Everywhere I looked, it's red. I'm like, it's you had in Hollywood, you had Trump supporters there in Beverly Hills, and you saw on social media it's just very red. California was. So for when the whole recall happened, I was like, we got to repeat 2020. That's what it seemed like to me.
Being a supporter and going to rallies is different from doing what needs to be done to win these races. You know what I'm saying? I was like, me and a couple of people, like, we started the rally. We made rallying cool in California with the Live Free rallies, Reopen California rallies. We rallied up and down California, but it didn't translate to people getting on the ground and helping us register voters. I mean, like, they were having rallies in Beverly Hills. My office was like 10 miles away. And we were literally paying people to help us register voters and to help us knock doors when you got 1,000 people up in Beverly Hills. So all that rallying, that's played out. That's played out. I'm really disappointed. People say that, oh, well, all these people came out to see Trump. Well, if you care so much, how come you didn't get out and do what needed to be done for us to win back California? Literally. It doesn't. So people going to rallies is not going to correlate to people winning elections. I know that firsthand.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if there's no turnout, on voting day, then it definitely, it don't help who came to a rally or who, you know what I mean? A lot of people just want to be part of the in crowd for sure.
Exactly.
And that's why I talk about the importance of being involved. And it could be to any degree. It could be for information, right? Like, for an example, we know what happened with the Hunter Biden thing, and had, a lot of people are saying had that would not have been suppressed, the election would have went differently. I don't think so. I just think a lot of people would have woke up a little bit sooner. But, information is important, and we're in the middle of an information war for sure. And so that's why, I definitely want people to get hip on you because, a lot of people, as we talked before, they're not paying attention to local elections as they are paying attention to the headlines. What the headlines are saying, articles are talking, everything's about Trump, everything's about Biden, but a lot of people don't know what's going on in their own city or their own districts and, their own counties. It's that starts to become an issue when it comes to voting and how things are happening within your own space. So going forward, what do you want to leave people with? You have this election coming up. I'll say right now, you have my support. I found out about you actually the same way Blanche did when you put out that video. I already knew already how corrupt Maxine was, but you know, it was just to see somebody going out of the way like that you did was very like inspiring, because you know we don't see it. That's why she's been there for so long. So what do you have to or what do you want to leave people with, as you know, going forward with this election coming up, and you know, with more people being involved in politics?
Well, the first thing is when you want to get involved, help a candidate knock doors and collect ballots. That's number two. That's number one. And number two, the third thing is when you talk to people, don't try to force your opinions down somebody else's throat or tell another person that they're wrong because you don't agree with them. Like, listen to them, accept what they say, and then move on, period. And that way, you know, it'll make it easier for us to run for office, or win different seats based on your merits and not your political party preference.
Joe, I have a question. So what's stopping the Democrats right now from approving reparations?
Why are you asking me? I don't know. I don't think nothing is. Well, right now, they don't control the Senate, you know what I'm saying, because they lost those seats the past year. But before, it's never been nothing. When Obama was in office, it's been nothing. When Joe Biden first got into office, it's been nothing. It's never been anything stopping Democrats from passing reparations. The reason why no political party will pass reparations is because people don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? You got to know who you are to know what type of reparations you're going to get. If you were a descendant of slaves, absolutely. Right. You know, if you were here prior to slavery, absolutely. If you were, you know, forced here from another land, and absolutely. Like, they got reparations for everybody. But if you don't know who you are, you're not going to get it. It's like putting on shoes. You're a size 10, but you're trying to wear a 14. It doesn't fit. It's not yours. Find your size.
Right.
So Mitch, I mean, we're not going to go back and forth on this, but Mitch said, what's stopping Republicans from passing reparations? But I'll say this from my perspective is that, first of all, when it comes to Democrats and the Democrat Party, which we've already talked about a little bit prior in our other live before we got cut off, was how when you look at these social programs and all this stuff that the Democrats push, it keeps you governed to where you no longer need to be governed. For Democrats, everything that they're pushing is governed, which is keeping you in a box. Now, if reparations were just, hey, here's what we owe you, you have land, you have money, you have resources, you no longer need to be governed. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that because their power is in these social programs like you were talking about. If you have your own business or businesses, okay, you then become, let's say you're living in government housing, okay, your business starts booming. You don't need to live in government housing no more. You can buy a home, you can buy cars, you can do all this. Then you are no longer under that social program as you were talking about. So now you're self-sustainable. Now, everything I've seen, and this is me personally, everything I've seen growing up from Democrats has been to keep you under some type of governing. So you're not self-governed. So if reparations were what I guess these people are talking about, it's supposed to be, then you will no longer need to be governed. So imagine all of these black people, regardless of wherever you come from or whatever, who are gaining reparations, gaining money and resources, all this stuff, okay? If you no longer can be governed by Democrats, then they have an issue. I don't ever see that coming to pass. Now, Asians, Hispanics, you know, all the other, I think Mitch was talking about it. That's something completely different. We see their communities are different when they come to America and in these cities, especially like LA is completely different because we have a whole Asian community. We have some even have little Somali little communities, all these different communities, but they have their own and they buy and sell within their own. Black people spend everywhere. You know, that's why we don't have a lot of resources because our money goes everywhere. It doesn't stay within a certain community. So just from my perspective on this is that anything that is going to push you to not be able to be actually governed, which is what they want, what I see that they want, is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I mean, right now they want to put everyone on some type of guaranteed income. I mean, that's governing.
And I would say this too. If they give you reparations, you won't have any more excuses. So I don't
True
think
too.
that many folks in our community are in a position to not have any more excuses. That means you can't cry no more, no marches, no crying, no fake
True.
woke, no
Never
be
thought
none of
about
that.
that.
All these excuses are gone. So if they give you reparations, just know you're gonna sign a document that says shut your mouth from here on out and get in line with everybody else. I don't think our people are in a position to do that. I just don't think so. So to me, the whole reparations argument is one to just keep complaining. It's not really a solution based, because if y'all really cared about getting reparations, y'all would have tore the streets up like you did for George Floyd. When it came to George Floyd, y'all tore the streets up because you wanted justice for George Floyd, right? So you mean to tell me they've owed you 40 acres and a mule for over 250 years, and y'all haven't tore up one building, not one march, not one picket sign, not nothing? So that lets me know that you all are really serious about reparations. So when I see you all react to reparations like y'all did for George Floyd and Jacob Blake and Breonna Taylor, then I know you're serious. When y'all out there stealing flat screens and bundles and PS5s, then I know you're serious. But
Stealing bundles. Gotta get
listen,
the hair.
but until
This what?
then, I'm not trying to hear it. At all, I'm not trying to hear it.
Hey, Bless, do you know what that remind me of when they start tearing up stuff with people getting shot and killed?
Yeah.
The 60s riots when that Asian shot that black girl in the store because she thought she was stealing, and then when Rodney King got beat up, and then they rioted Watts again. That's what that remind me of. And you know what? They still never rebuilt Watts. That was the 60s, and then again in the 90s. And I was there for the 90s one. It's still a mess. Still a mess.
Right.
And they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
It's not there. There's no priority.
Yep. All right, y'all, I'm getting off here, man. I got an early morning.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right. All right, peace.
Great live. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the people watching too. Thank you, Blanche, for hopping on last second.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys.